All right, and a motion to approve the minutes of the May 23rd, that was the district budget validation?
Oh, I was there, and I vote in favor.
Oh, yeah, that's for this one.
Oh, okay, good.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion,
Then
and it's
I'll-
an
then I'll-
affirmative
I'll
motion.
second
Okay.
that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, and then approve the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting held on May 29th, 2019. A motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Great. So we're going to move on to our recognition portion of the evening, and we are lucky enough to have the Greeley Gazette here. So this is a group of 4th and 5th graders who every Tuesday, right, meet and they work really hard on writing different articles and book reviews. So it's really wonderful. If anyone wants to check it out, they can go to the school, or am I taking anyone's speech away? Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and we will let the students do it. So we'd love to hear from them.
Okay, thank you very much. So happy to be here, and thank you for inviting us. So we're going to pass out some copies of the Greeley Gazette. Go right up and you can pass them out. The black and white copies are an example of the very first gazettes that we did. We called it the Hornet Gazette when we were at NYMS, and that was back in 2012. And you can see from the present colorful 6-page Greeley Gazette how we've evolved and grown over the years. When we first started, Carol MacArthur came to me and asked me if I was interested in doing an after-school program and do the newspaper. A few kids had stayed in for recess at lunchtime the year before and had handwritten a little newsletter kind of thing that they handed out to random students. So we decided to formalize it, and we started a 2-page black and white newspaper, and 8 kids showed up for the first meeting, and it was really quite astounding what happened. A little 4th grader said to me when we were brainstorming ideas for writing articles, "Have you ever heard of a girl named Malala?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And she said, "Do you know that a really bad group of people called the Taliban shot her just because she wanted to get an education? I'm really mad about that, and I want to write about it." And I said, "That's great. Go ahead." When we had our second meeting, a little boy who had said that he wanted to write about the Animal Refuge League showed up. I thought he was going to just look it up on the internet and write a little thing. He'd gotten his parents to take him over to Brunswick to the Mid-Coast Animal Refuge League. He'd interviewed the people there, and he wrote all about their little pot-bellied pig and other things like that. So this really inspired me and helped me realize that young people have stories to tell. And over the years, the newspaper has grown to the point where this year we had almost 60 kids show up at our initial meeting, and we had to separate it into 2 sessions, first half of the year and the second half of the year. So we now publish a newspaper 4 times a year, and it's now published on our library media website, which you can find simply by going to the MSAD51 website and scrolling to finding the library media centers, going to GMS, the middle school library media center, and it's always there. The current issue is always there. Our librarians also use the Gazette now as a tool to teach in their library classes. And some of the things that kids have written about are everything from international things like Malala's experience to another person was really kind of outraged about the Flint water episode where lead was in the water and affected a lot of children still to this day. A lot of kids are interested in things like science and astronomy and sports, of course. And then we have kids who like to do book reviews, movie reviews. We have kids that write poetry, kids that write recipes, kids that write things that, video games that kids should avoid or not spend too much time on. So one of my big things that I really try to emphasize is the difference between fact and opinion. And also, kids are very interested these days in talking about what is fake news and what is real news. And they all feel it's so important that we be able to trust the news that we see on TV and that we read in newspapers and magazines. And my final thing that I really emphasize with kids and feel so strongly about and hope that I am an example of this myself is that I want to foster curiosity about everything in life. That young people have their whole world open in front of them in such a bigger way than we did when we grew up. And sometimes it's a difficult world to navigate for them, but I hope that they will always be curious enough to learn and to learn about the facts and how they fit into this world that we live in now. So some of the kids are here today, not 30, but we are very busy this season. Families are busy with sports and things, but these wonderful kids have shown up and a few of them are going to speak.
Great, thank you. And I forgot to introduce you. This is Daphne Sprague. And how long have you been doing this? Did you say it was 8 years?
Yes, 2012.
Okay, thank you. All right.
You're going to speak, right? Whoever's first up.
I'm Dahlia Perrin, and here at the Greeley Gazette Newspaper Club, we cover so many types of news. It's hard to just talk about one type. We cover like book reviews to interviews and everything in between.
Hi, I'm Claire Larson, and for my article, me and my friends, we set up a vote with the librarians, and it was really cool to see how the thing we set up after school turned into, it was done during library classes. We came in during the classes to come and talk about it, and it really grew, and it was really cool to see the article in the end.
My name is Breton Wiesner, and we also took a field trip during school to the Portland Press Herald to learn all about like what a true newspaper does, and we got to see everything from the printing press to interviewing the actual reporters, and that was really interesting.
So I can? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Kayla Delisle, and I'm in ninth grade now, definitely not a fourth grader. And so I came here in 5th grade, and I joined this club, and I ended up making a lot of new friends, and it was a pretty fun experience.
Thank you.
She also has come back and helped various times.
So great. Well, I myself am an avid reader, and it's just lovely. And I think sometimes it's easy to overlook just the time that a position like this. It's staying after school. It's managing students well beyond the length of your day. So I appreciate your time. I think all of us do, and you guys are great. Is there anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you.
So,
It's okay.
I am Keenan Berry, and I do a lot of articles with my friends on science, and we find it very interesting on like black holes, the stars, and the atmosphere, and we do a lot of articles on like just stuff that we find interesting.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Do the board have any questions?
Just more of a comment that, again, just echoing what Kate said. I mean, the most striking thing about you all is that you took your curiosity and you took it the extra step, and you had confidence in yourself that others would be equally curious. And then you put pen to paper, or you typed and you created a story and information for us. And that is a tremendous gift that each and every one of you have. And it will hold you in great stead, you'll do great in life. And so thank you so much for sharing our stories, and thank you so much for spearheading it. This is just a really wonderful presentation, and you should all be very, very proud of yourselves.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I know it's baseball season. And if you folks would like to go home and enjoy the rest of your evening, now is the perfect time to do that. Thank you very much, Daphne. My husband gets them all out here without a fight. My husband's like corralling my 3 children out of here.
Oh.
Good luck, guys. Weren't they great? That was wonderful. And to have that work product and to see it grow like that.
Oh, my daughter loves it. She glows when she gets home.
Oh, yes, that's their binders.
Binders. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I saw them on every one of the flash.
I see Mr. Marks. Yes, yes.
What wants them?
Do you want to get it so it's out of this I don't want to blind anyone.
Martha, we're going to take things a little bit out of order, and we're going to go for the item for action pertaining to Elias next. So just as a heads up, I know it's... So yes, just before the presentations, I would like to hear maybe a little snippet from Margot. I know you were on the process, and entertain a motion to appoint Elias Leggett-Barr as the junior student representative for the board.
I'm trying to remember. Things are smushing together in time. It wasn't that long ago that we met a relatively large number of interested Greeley High School students for this position. It was a great opportunity to meet students, which I don't have anyone left in the school anymore, so I really enjoyed meeting each of the students. They all had a lot of gifts and a lot of enthusiasm for the position. It was not an easy choice for us to make, but we're very, very excited that you'll be joining us for your next 2 years.
And I think something that this board really enjoys about their student board rep is, it just gives us a great perspective. And so that the comments from the students just round out our discussions. So did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, and a quick, not too.
Great, head up to the podium.
Hello, and for any of you who didn't hear my name, I'm Elias Leggett-Barr, and I am obviously at the tail end of my sophomore year. I'm very excited and grateful for the opportunity to serve on the board next year as the junior representative, and I'm happy to introduce myself in front of all of you tonight. I'm excited to share the voices of Greeley students and additionally share thoughts of my own during my time on the board. I'm excited to work with the board as a whole and with smaller committees targeted at focusing on more specific aspects of our school system. I have a few ideas I'd like to work on, but one aspect I would love to look at is how we can better take advantage of our consolidated campus and work to link our 3 schools. I would hope to instill different programs that engage the older students in fostering relationships and emotional connections with the younger students. I hope to bring this idea and many more to the table next year, and am extremely grateful and excited for the opportunity that lies ahead.
Wonderful.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. All right, so I would need a motion.
So moved.
All right, a second.
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
Just one.
Go for it, Kevin.
Really excited to have you joining us up here. You obviously follow some spectacular family members, and really looking forward to gaining from your experience.
Yeah, and again, I am cycling off in a few short weeks, and so there are many things that I will miss. One was serving with your mom, and unfortunately, we're two ships too, but I know you'll do great, and the board will benefit from your insight, so congratulations.
All right, all in favor? All right, congratulations, Elias. All right, and if you guys would feel free, now is the time. I know, right?
I know.
We miss you, Martha.
I know.
That's it?
It's just getting good.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the presentations of our evening, and we will start with Sally Laughlin for the ESSA program plan discussion.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity to share this information with the board and also consider this an opportunity to engage the broader community. Because one of the things we're obligated to do, and it's really the spirit of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is the current version of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which we know is the one way the federal government gives us guidances through the purse strings. Part of our process every year is to make sure that the public's aware of the federal funds we're receiving, what our plans are to do with those funds, and any input or feedback on that plan. So this is thank you for letting me come to you, talk to you, and please know I'm also hoping anyone in the public who's interested is welcome to give feedback. So one of the first things I think folks want to know, especially on the board, is kind of what are the funds that we're receiving and how do they compare to previous years? And so this is the 3-year experience, looking ahead to next year is the 3rd year. You can see that our funds are relatively stable, and we're receiving approximately around $100,000. Where $103,000 will be next year is pretty much rounded up total. That's across 3 different programs that the federal government has us eligible for in MSAD51. Title I is for at-risk students, and we're allowed to use those funds to address what we see as a strategic way to address at-risk students. Typically, it's been a literacy program. In previous iterations of this grant program, it was called Chapter 1. So anyway, we are in keeping with that model with focusing on early literacy. Title II has been known as class size reduction or improving teacher quality grant funds. Our choice for the last few years is to combine that with Title I. We are allowed to transfer funds, and the same with Title IV, which allows us to address a number of other types of programs. We elect to pour all that money into Title I and spend the entire amount at MIW on early literacy support. So our plan is to transfer all of the funds to Title I, and our current Title I program provides literacy for identified at-risk students. We currently have 2 teachers that work in this role. Part of their day is funded through Title I, and part of their day is funded through the local budget. As you can see from the budget sheet that I showed you to begin with, it varies a little by year how the percentages work. This current year, the funds that we received reflected 53% of each of the staff person's time. So we have 2 people, about half time, and it's a partnership. They do some regular stuff for our district and some Title I work. So as I said to begin with, this is an awesome opportunity to really take a moment of your time, and anyone in the community, and make sure you're aware of what our proposed plan is, and also invite any feedback or comments for the planning process. Our grant will not be submitted until the end of July. And so there is an open block of time for feedback and any type of concern or conversation folks want to have about how we use our federal funds. And so anyway, I just appreciate this opportunity and welcome any questions you might have.
Well, does anyone have any questions? I have one.
You go.
I'll go first. Just wondering, has our usage of this money changed through the years, or has this always been where we've kind of allocated these funds?
This will be my 10th year, and we have, when I came, we did use like the Title II funds separately for some projects. In fact, one of the years we used it to pay partial of the teacher, the math coach, when we wanted to add a second math coach K-5. So we have done, depending on the amount of funding, which probably 5 years ago looked different in Title II, we had that other function. But in terms of what we do for Title I services, traditionally it's either been literacy or literacy and math. It certainly does not cover all the students at Mabel I. Wilson who need support. So it's just a question of kind of where we place the bullseye.
Great. Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, not so much a question other than a statement. About a month ago, I think, I don't know if it was a month ago, Corey, you gave me a tour of the of some of the areas where these funds are being used. And as a board member and certainly member of the community, I was just blown away by the work that was going on in those rooms, the way that the students were being engaged. It was just amazing. So I love the way that you're dedicating those funds to literacy.
Great, thank you. That goes to Susie and Corey, thanks. We're all set? Great, well, thank you for this opportunity.
Sally.
Appreciate it.
All right, and next up, Jeff is going to give us the 2018-2019 Strategic Plan Year-End Progress Report.
Okay, well, I wish I could be as brief as Mrs. Laughlin, but I will not be. Sorry. This is the year-end progress report. This is year one of our 3-year strategic plan, which is 2018 to 2021. So this probably looks familiar. This is our graphic for the strategic plan. There are 4 areas that were highlighted in the strategic plan. Wellness, every student college and career ready, early childhood education, and skills for the 21st century. And when we're looking at strategic planning, there's 2 types of change that I do like to reference. One is a technical change, which is more of a physical change, something that's tangible and clear, and we have a problem and we need it. We're looking for a solution to that. And you'll see 2 types of changes in our strategic plan. The second type of change is adaptive, when there is an issue or a problem to be solved, but there is no clear outcome and no clear way of doing that. So it's something that's fluid, and we're learning the solution together. And you'll find that through the course of this presentation that a lot of the things that are in the strategic plan really are more adaptive than they are technical. So a quick key for just looking at how we've done this year in the strategic plan. If it's completed, it gets a check mark. If it's in progress, it looks like Main Street and Cumberland. And if it's a pause, that means that we are putting it on hold. So this is the top 10, and I introduced the top 10 at the beginning of the year. I referenced the top 10 in January for a mid-year update. And so tonight I'm here to give you the end-of-year top 10 and looking back on the top 10. So number 10, mentoring and recertification changes. So we are in the process of developing a staff mentoring. Mrs. Laughlin actually is the one that's spearheading that, and there is a summer training that will be having several of our teachers getting trained to be mentors. It's been a while since we've done training for teachers who are interested, a formal training, and we will be basically improving and increasing our mentoring program for teachers, especially those teachers who are new to the profession that we hire. That's a whole different kind of mentoring than teachers who are new to our district, but we do both. And we now have a very robust recertification committee, and that includes educational technicians. We are now responsible at the district level for recertifying all of our ed techs. It used to be done directly through the state of Maine, and the state decided to delegate that to the local districts. So again, Mrs. Laughlin oversees that as well. Number 9, open the Greeley Center for the Arts. In January, we did open the Greeley Center for the Arts. We are continuing to look at that center and how it operates, how it works, and all the benefits that and challenges that come with that beautiful space. I can tell you that on any given day, it is always booked. In fact, I have a hard time getting meetings in there. But the goal of the strategic plan was to get this building built and to start beginning the process of bringing programming in. Our manager, Jen Segal, has been reaching out to community partners such as the PSO, and we have some really neat things in plan for next year. For the center, it is being used by our students and our staff on a very regular basis. Number 8, calendar ad hoc work group. We have a calendar committee that's been working for about, I'd say 8 months now. We have another meeting actually this week. And that committee is exploring all of our early release time, especially, and seeing if there are alternatives to ensuring that our teachers have appropriate professional learning, as well as looking at instructional time, of course, for our students, and seeing if that balance is where it should be, and brainstorming potential alternative ideas that will be brought to the Board of Directors probably mid next year, somewhere in the December range. Mental health. We have a new position this year that I want to thank the board for agreeing to during the budget cycle for the current year. And that position is a mental health and risk assessment coordinator. Eventually, we also like that person to do some substance use support, although he has started doing some of that. We also have a district at-risk team when we have some problem solving around specific students. We have a team of mental health professionals who get together and look at students from a district-wide angle and not just a school angle. And we're also beginning the work of looking at gaps in our mental health services in our district, and that's part of our mental health, part of our strategic plan. So this is in progress, and that's why it's designated as a yellow. High school career field experience. This is something that I feel really strongly about and passionately about, and it's something that we continue to talk about during Pathways meetings. But tonight I'm recommending to the board that we put this one on pause. With all the work that is going on in the district, especially around extended learning opportunities, we are still trying to solidify that after 2 years. And I think it's come a long, long way. But before we dive into something as large as providing field experiences for every student before they graduate, we need to develop relationships with community partners, around businesses, and also get our extended learning opportunities where they need to be. So I'm recommending this evening that this is an area for pulling back from the initial strategic plan. By the way, we have many students who get field experiences in our district through ELOs. So students who really want a field experience are applying for those, and they are partaking in those. So it's not that we don't have any students doing this. This lift was around all students at Greeley High School having a formal field experience before leaving high school. Still something that we want to pursue, but just feel like at this time it should be a pause. Number 5, creativity and innovation within the standards. This is something that is in progress. We have a new committee that just started actually 3 or 4 months ago, and that committee is made up of teachers, administrators who are looking at ways that we can incorporate different ways of teaching and learning in our classrooms and extend those pieces that we're already doing in those classrooms, such as project-based learning. That's an idea that I know is very much on the minds of the people on that committee, and that's an area that we'd like to explore more in the classroom, but that's certainly just started. Number 4, Elementary Education Task Force. That group has been meeting for about 4 months since the beginning of January, and that group, or I think March actually is when it started, that group will continue meeting for another 6 months and will provide a recommendation to the Board of Directors in February 2020. In line with the timeline for completing that work, making a recommendation as to what will be the next steps for elementary education, especially with regards to facility planning. Number 3 is the wellness plan. Carol MacArthur has been overseeing the wellness committee, as most of you have known, for the last couple of years. We have a very ambitious wellness plan. We have a committee that oversees that, and we have a lot of participation. We have students, we have parents, we have teachers, we have administrators, and we have board members who are very actively involved in all 6 of our wellness initiative areas. And that is certainly in progress, but there's been a huge amount of progress made over the last year. It's been an extremely active part of the strategic plan and very successful. Expanding RTI supports, number 2. This is around providing interventions for students and making sure that we are answering these questions. How do we know if students are learning, and what do we do when they're not learning? Those are key questions around RTI. That's in process, and I will tell you that that will always be in process. There will never be a year, even at the end of the life of this strategic plan, when we say that RTI is done. We're always looking for ways to intervene with students. We're always looking for tools that we need to be putting into place to make sure that our students are successful. Number 1, supporting the core. We have made progress in all of these areas. In terms of Atlas, that's something that's a project that's been going on for several years. The literacy audit is a committee and a group that's been working with an outside expert around unpacking our literacy programming, especially at the elementary level, but all the way up through high school, and identifying the gaps that we can fill to make sure that our students are successful. HITS, which is high impact teaching strategies. That's how to reach all students. What are effective practices for all kids in the regular classroom? And all of our administrators have been helping our teachers through professional learning experiences this year at each school. And finally, proficiency status. You passed the graduation policy, which was revised recently, and in there was language around proficiency. That language has been stricken, as you know, from the graduation policy. The graduation policy will go back for a second iteration, hopefully next year, where we will be starting to look at areas of the graduation policy that are more specific around credits, field experience, et cetera, things that we want to look to in the future. So that is still in process. One of the things that I think is important around strategic planning is to start showing what is the impact of a strategic plan. It's not just words on paper. It's not just a plan we put on a shelf. It's not just something that we say is all in committee work. These are real people that are actually affected by the strategic plan that we have. And these are some examples that I'd like to briefly go through tonight and show you some real life examples. So Connor Albert, who's the class of 2023, we did actually, as Ashley Caswell and Siobhan Bogle, who's a teacher at the middle school, and Margot Harrington, I think you were involved in that too. I keep forgetting who's involved in what.
Tyler.
It was Tyler.
Did a lot of, and Tyler McGinley were very involved in this project in interviewing a lot of different stakeholders around their connection to the district. And when we look back at those stories and those profiles, we found that a lot of them, of course, were tied, believe it or not, to the strategic plan. So Connor said that Greeley is good at balancing academics and sports. Obviously, we're striving to do a better job at that, but that's around wellness. And that is also taking into account our homework and our homework policy that's right now being revised and should be completed next year. And one of the things that we've added to the strategic plan that you'll find was not in the strategic plan previously is why it matters. So we have why it matters statements. And in this case, why it matters, students deserve balance in their lives to live in the moment. So Leanne Brainerd is the manager of the kitchen at Mabel Wilson School, and she talks about the breakfast program. And again, this is tied to the wellness area of the plan around nutrition. And why does it matter? Because healthy bodies are a key to learning and lifelong happiness and health. So Dylan said, my favorite part of school is when we do the calendar. And this is around early childhood education, the elementary education study, and why it matters. Success in the early childhood years means success for life. Jessica Swindlehurst is a second grade teacher. It's really obvious, she said, that when you walk through our school and listen to what's happening, it's always about the kids. They are the center of the universe here. Obviously tied to early childhood education, and why it matters is obviously around making sure that our childhood years are successful for life. Every student, college, and career ready. Leo said, I really like STEM. I like doing coding. Why it matters, STEM unlocks the world around us and many modern career opportunities. Some of these things, by the way, are in they're all in the current strategic plan. Some of them were in prior strategic plans as well, or the prior one. STEM has been something that we've carried over. Jason Lariviere is a teacher at GMS, and he said Greeley does a really great job identifying students and getting services early on. Obviously, this is through RTI in our strategic plan. This is what we've been working on through the first and second strategic plans. Why it matters, every student deserves basic academic and behavioral skills for their future. Sophia said, I feel most creative and inspired when I'm in my English classes. Skills for the 21st century around creativity and innovation. Why it matters, this nation was built on innovation, and our job is to awaken that talent. And finally, Sid says, I'm in new media at Paths, and I really love it there. And this is, again, skills for the 21st century, high school career experiences. Should have mentioned Paths is also a high school career experience. Why it matters, career experiences motivate students to set realistic workforce goals. So these are examples of things that you'll see in the new iteration that I'm recommending of the strategic plan. And just to go back to why do we do strategic plans, what's the importance of it? Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great, said effective organizations are able to cut away a lot of noise and clutter and focus on those few things that make the greatest impact. And I will say that tonight I'm recommending that there is a size back, I guess that's a word, to the strategic plan that will I think will be more effective in the way that we approach this plan. There is a lot of content in our strategic plan, and the leadership team also worked on retooling the plan and looking at different ways of approaching this plan in the next 2 years. So here's some proposals for tonight for the board to consider. Cutting away the noise, proposed amendments. Streamlining our overall strategies. There are 75 strategies in the current plan. Like to recommend tonight 34. And I'm going to briefly show you how we did that in just a moment. Attaching why statements to indicators. I gave you some examples of those, and I'll show you where those are stored. Adding a safety and security indicator to wellness. We have a safety committee that's been doing a tremendous amount of work, working with the Homeland Security Department over the last 2 years. Actually, the last year we've been doing that. The committee's been in place for 2 years, and really looking at the safety features of our district. So we've added that to the strategic plan. I think it's necessary to do that. Next one is adding equity and inclusion as an indicator to 21st century skills. As you know, you have supported funds for equity and inclusion. We have a plan going forward in order to provide those services in our district so that we are more aware of those areas. Changing the pre-K direction. The strategic plan as it's currently written basically said that we would review the pre-K program and see what steps the state was taking. Instead, obviously, we are starting a pre-K program, and we want our strategic plan to reflect the changes that we've made there. Scaling back learning exhibitions. This was a huge one that we had talked about, taking some new steps in terms of students demonstrating their learning at various grade levels. And instead of doing that, I'm recommending that we take a step back and look at what we're already doing. We're already doing a lot of things in this area. We have a lot of learning exhibition pieces that we have in place in our district. And so I'm recommending that right now we catalog those areas and expand what we already are doing instead of trying something new. And the last one I already mentioned, deferring career field experience to the next strategic plan, very worthy, but at this time do not feel that we have the resources or time to support this right now. So the last slide is just to take you to a new tool, which will be available to the public in the fall. It's not completely ready for prime time. This is a free tool that came to the district through the Administrators Association at the national level. And it will be linked to our main page sometime in early fall. So this is a new way of looking at the strategic plan, and I think it's an easier way, especially for folks that are not familiar but want to see what the strategic plan is and see it in a small and condensed place instead of looking at it from a global angle. So basically, this tool breaks it out by indicators and strategies. And each of the indicators are by the priority areas. So starting with wellness, you'll see that the 6 areas of the wellness plan, plus we added one, which is at the end, safety and security. And under each of these indicators, there are why it matters statements. So basically, why does it matter that we're talking about nutrition? Why does it matter that we talk about fitness? Why does it matter that we talk about things? Those why statements are now there in one place. Same thing with early childhood education. There's 3 areas there under early childhood, and you can click on those. And continuing down, the other thing that we have added in this tool are impact metrics. So these were in the strategic plan. Now anyone from the public can go to these metrics and see how we are doing in the district based on these metrics, whether they are a score that we're using to measure literacy or mathematics. It's some sort of an indicator for social emotional growth from a survey, such as a student survey or a parent survey. There are metrics around homework. So somebody from the public can go to this page, look at how we're doing. These indicators right here are current. These metrics are current. And then finally in this tool, and I think this is probably the most helpful to people who are wanting to find stuff about the strategic plan in one place and see how we're doing. And this is the part that obviously we need to continue working on so that it's ready for the fall, is that for each of those priority areas, starting with wellness, and let's just take homework, underneath you will see that there are the strategies for that, and it tells you how many strategies there are. And these are the 34 strategies that we are recommending at this point. Instead of having 75, we're now down to 34. A lot of these are consolidated. We took the 75 and consolidated those back so that we are making a strategic plan that actually can be effective. And I'm going to pass that out right now. So my recommendation, and I would recommend that the changes to the strategic plan are held until the next meeting and not this meeting. But basically, in a nutshell, the paper that I'm passing out has 2 sides to it. And on the first side, basically, it's more of a metric side to it, and the other one is the strategy side. And you'll see on the strategy side that the 34 strategies that we are recommending at this point move forward with a strategic plan are right here. And that's the bulk of the revised strategic plan recommendations. You'll also see on the other side of the paper where each of the areas has a why it matters statement, and all those why it matters statements are in one place. And you can also see the metrics that are being used. So basically taking the content of the tool that I was just showing you and putting it all in one place. A member of the public can also do that themselves when this tool goes live. You can download the information by clicking on the arrow, and it will download all the information in one place for anyone to look at, if that's how they prefer to look at it. I think it's an easier way to navigate the strategic plan and also to see how the plan is working. So again, I think I would recommend that between now and the 17th that we just hold, we not vote on this tonight, we'll vote on it the 17th to revise the strategic plan in line with the 34 strategies that we're recommending at this time.
Thank
And you'll see that safety and security are in there. That's now represented. And equity and inclusion is represented now in the strategic plan. And you'll see them under, they're in the 34 strategies. So that is the year-end update on the strategic plan. There's a lot going on with it, but I think this is a more comfortable way of looking at the strategic plan and a more effective model going ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions from the board?
I have a comment related to the high school career field experience, tying it into our addition of equity and inclusion to the strategic plan. I just hope that we are finding a way to ensure that students of color, students with different learning abilities, or any other differences are having more kind of first choice or priority over some of the students who might have other social or more financial connections in our community.
Yeah, so any student can apply for an ELO in our district, at the high school level. We give preference for students as they get older in high school. Obviously, juniors and seniors, we're giving preference to those students. We rarely have students that are doing ELOs who are a freshman, for example, although I think we had one this year. So the ELOs, it's really by application and by interest, and any student who would like to participate, we try to find a way to help them do that. So we have had a lot of students this year. It's actually been increasing over the 3 years that we've been providing ELOs. So.
Kevin?
I had a question about is it the ECRA program that you guys are using now, or are about to launch, that tracks everything? Is the public going to have a sign-in, or is it going to be just click and you get to view it?
It'll be a link on our website that you can just click in and it will take you right in. You won't have to sign in like I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
and is that a huge lift to fill that whole, is it creating a ton of work to fill that all in?
Actually, I filled it in. Honestly,
Okay,
it's
great.
pretty much, it really wasn't. Basically what they do is they create the tool for a district to use. You input your information into it. It really wasn't a big lift. The work ahead is that we have to kind of determine where are we at with that, and then make a decision. And it's, in my mind, it's either 0%, we really haven't started yet, 50%, we're kind of getting there, we're halfway through or partially done, or 100% we're completed. That's really that's how we would use a tab like that. It is simplistic, but I think it gives somebody from the public just an idea, a quick idea, where are they at with this as they're working on it.
Cool. Thank you.
I like what you did with it, Jeff. I think it's that combination, though, of not just the simplicity of what's in there, but the way that you are linking this back to the impact in everything that we do. Because if it's just we're asking the communities to invest in something for the district, sometimes there's that disconnect. So when you're able to continue to apply this to exactly what that strategy or priority is, and putting people in the seat of this is what we're driving toward, and then I do like this system from the standpoint of what gets measured gets done, and it's a solid step in that direction.
Okay. Thank you.
I love it. I mean, it's immediately. I'm pretty challenged with small print as I get older, and so it's really quite accessible. And even in some ways more importantly, I really like that you're cutting down from 30 down to 34. That alone, even outside of the fact of actually doing it, it actually even just makes it more accessible and comprehensible, because very few people can hang on in terms of digesting 74. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's really good insight on everyone's part to sort of just put the, hold on it, not let the plan itself drive it, and for you to take that position. So I think it's great, and I think I look forward to seeing more of it on the other side.
I'm looking forward to 34 as well. I think it's easier to hold on to, honestly. The 75 was not working the way we wanted to, and I think these are a little bit broader as well. You'll see the strategies are broader, and I think those broader strategies actually give us more flexibility in getting some of the work done, which is, I think, very important. So the point of a plan is to help students. We want to make sure it's helping students.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Good insight.
And so we'll vote on that next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so next is our superintendent's report as well.
Well, I first wanted to just say I really like the Greeley Gazette. I was actually reading it a little bit, and there was a particular story I kind of gravitated towards. Mr. Marks, the man through the window. I love the story. I love it. It's great. Well, just want to say congratulations to the class of 2019. I graduated yesterday. Very successful and very exciting to see a very large class in our district. Actually, it was our largest class that graduated, and how enthusiastic and excited they were to do that. A lot of great activities at the high school this past week for graduation. Habitat for Humanity walk on May 17th. Students at GMS 405, you might have seen them walking down Tuttle Road. They walked a couple miles at least that day. Walking in as part of the guidance curriculum, the students were fundraising for the organization Habitat for Humanity, and they raised $7,475 on that during that event. So we're really proud of our students. Outdoor Classroom Week. Like to thank Tyler McGinley and the Environmental Stewardship Committee especially for putting that out there May 20th to 24th. Thankfully, it did not rain that much that week, so we were able to hold that. There was lots and lots of students out there. A lot of teachers brought their students out. There were all kinds of activities, from kindergartners finding 10 sticks and putting them in order to the high school's Foundations of Science class, learning about tension lessons. I'm not sure what that is, but they were learning it. Visit to the State House. Emily Cairns' third grade class got a fun surprise last week while visiting the Maine State Museum. They had the opportunity to meet Governor Mills. She happened to be there, and sit with her in the cabinet room and ask her all kinds of questions. So think about how memorable that is. When I was a student, I remember meeting Governor John McKernan one day, and I've never forgotten that. It's kind of interesting to be able to ask the governor of your state a question. Tree planting. So thank you to Anderson Landscaping for donating 3 dogwood trees. They were planted behind the Art Center in honor of Maine's Arbor Day. The Environmental Stewardship Committee partnered with each school's green team. We had a lot of students that participated that day in planting the trees, so I'd like to say thank you to everybody involved. Peabody Essex Museum. This is a field trip the 7th graders go on each year, and I've always heard how exciting it is, and decided, hey, why not? I'm just going to go. So I went one day, and it was exciting, and if anyone ever has a chance to get down there, I had never been to that museum, and I was absolutely, as the kids were, asking a zillion questions about it. It was really very, very neat. Scattergood Farm volunteers, 34 representatives from GMS 68, the Outing Club, Civil Rights Team, Student Council, and the Green Team volunteered at Scattergood Farm in Brunswick last week. Scattergood is a volunteer-based farm that grows organic fruits and vegetables, and they donate it to food banks. So our students were there, and they were weeding, planting seeds, filling sandbags, anything that needed to be done. Budget vote. I'd like to thank everyone who attended our district budget meeting a couple of weeks ago. Everything passed unanimously. We're very thankful of that, and just reminding everyone that our district budget vote is on June 11th, Tuesday, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at your town's polling location. I'd like to congratulate GHS student Caroline Payne, who's the recipient of the 2019 Mitchell Scholarship for the amount of $2,500 each year of college for up to 4 years. So she actually received $10,000. So congratulations to Caroline.
Great, thank you. All right, so next we're going to move into public comment. And has everyone seen, there's a copy of the policy if anyone has any questions, and is anyone wanting to speak during public comment? Okay, and just public comment, well, we'll just try to, if anyone is commenting on an agenda item later, I'm just trying to think, public comment would be the place to make any comments that anyone has tonight. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move on to committee reports. Mike, do you want to give us any news from finance? I'm not sure if there is any, but.
Yeah, I think Jeff stole all my thunder,
Oh,
but
sorry.
No, it was great. The district budget meeting went really well on May 23rd. Everything passed unanimously. Thank all of you who came out. Thank you for doing so. The finance committee is getting tomorrow off for good behavior. But we will be meeting again on the morning of June 11th. And also, as Jeff did, please, I just want to remind everybody to get out there and vote. So,
Kevin, policy.
Sure, thank you. We had a meeting this evening with a large group of folks to begin some work, and I think that we finalized it thus far on student discipline. That will be presented to the group well, I guess the next meeting will have a first reading on that. And thanks to everybody who participated in that this evening. I will get the subsequent date out for our next meeting.
Great, thanks. Tyler, curriculum.
Don't have any updates.
Okay. Scott's not here, so I don't think there's any new updates for negotiations. Facilities, Mike or Gigi?
Yes, that's my cue.
That's your cue.
Facilities held a joint meeting with finance pending the outcome of the budget vote. We're identifying projects for the upcoming year that will be completed using available capital funding once those transfers occur.
Great. Tyler, back to you for environmental stewardship.
As Jeff mentioned, we had Outdoor Classroom Week, we had Arbor Day, so really busy. And our next meeting is June 13th, where we're going to set some goals for next year. Looking forward to another busy and successful committee year.
Well, and I would just like to make a comment that I think you've done such a nice job with environmental stewardship. I think it's just had a lot of new life breathed into it, and I loved seeing the kids out there planting the trees, so
Me too.
great work.
That's great.
I'm glad you said that, Kate, because
Yeah,
I wanted to not let that pass by. You guys have just, every time you turn around, we hear about something else that you're doing, and really, I applaud that. It's really remarkable. So congratulations on all that good work.
And student reports. Tara, it's just you tonight. I feel, I just saw Madeline yesterday, but still weird not to have her here.
So I was able to attend graduation. It was a really lovely ceremony. So congratulations to the whole class of 2019. The rest of us at the high school are looking forward to the end of the year. We have 11 days left, not that I'm counting. Yeah, so looking forward to summer break.
Thank you. All right, so communications, Gigi, do you want to cover that one? I know that's you.
Consistent with policy BDE1, I will be reaching out to my fellow board members to solicit names for chairs and vice chairs to be considered for next year. And so I plan on doing that, and then my understanding is the board will then vote at the last meeting in June, whenever that is. Yeah,
June
okay.
17th.
All right, great.
Thank you, Gigi. Sure. And then the draft board calendar for the meetings, 1920. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it.
I
Did we do
think
that
you
right?
need a few more meetings. I think it looks a little light.
I
was waiting for you.
That's funny, Gigi.
Remember who's not going to be here.
So that, and then we don't have to vote on that, right? That's just a message, a communication.
Right. It's
Okay.
it pretty much follows the calendar that we've had this year. I think always a question mark is the July meeting and if we have a quorum for July. And the reason we have a July meeting, we're always asked, why do you have a July meeting? We usually have nominations for teachers. We end up hiring a few people at the end of June, depending on if there's a vacancy that comes up late. If there's any sort of nominations, we usually have at least a couple of teachers that need to go to the board. So that's why we hold a July meeting. So it's July 8th. If there's an issue with that date, if you could let Fran know as soon as possible so that we can adjust the calendar. The other thing I'll just point out is that there's a couple of dates, a workshop that we specifically put in what it is. October 21st. We are hoping to do a tentative joint meeting again with the towns of Cumberland and North Yarmouth. There seemed to be a lot of strong interest in doing that again, which I think was really successful. December 2nd, there'll be an update on the calendar committee's work. At that point, the calendar committee will be done with its work, and we'll be forwarding it to the board. And then on February 3rd, there'll be a midpoint workshop that we had built into the original schedule for the elementary ed committee, the facilities piece. And so there'll be a workshop with the committee and the board to basically update as to where we are with all the facilities planning. And again, that was from the beginning, we said we would do that.
Great. And so if anyone has any feedback on the board calendar, they can reach out to Jeff and Fran. And then July 8th, just give that date a check. We need to make sure we have a quorum. We certainly don't expect everyone to attend. All right, so now we're going to move into our items for action during the evening. We've already done the student board rep, so we're going to move on to some policy. Kevin, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thanks, Kate. So the first reading, well, a couple things. Thanks so much for everyone who reached out with questions or seeking clarification on the two policies that we have for this evening. The first of which is policy JHB, truancy, and the second is policy IKF, which speaks to graduation requirements. I'd really like to thank not only the committee, but people that were outside of the policy committee that took the time to come in on both of these and share insight and, well, for lack of a better word, testimony that would help to ensure that it met the needs of each one of the buildings. For policy JHB, this policy, as you know from reading this, it updates the policy to be in compliance with Maine statute. It also further outlines procedures as well as people who are part of that team to deal with truancy. I would like to make a motion that we accept this policy as written.
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
I would just ask Jeff if there's any place that you want to amplify the information in this, to feel free.
No, I think this policy, well, first of all, it does comply with the law. Our policy did not comply with the law. This is the updated. When the law changed a few years ago, there were some updates that needed to happen. It's actually changed a couple times. So we've had to keep revising this policy. But there are clear steps that we have to take when a student is truant from school. And those steps are a lot more clearly defined through this policy.
Great. So I'll take a vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, great. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. So the second policy that we're talking about, the correct one up here, this is policy IKF. It revises the graduation requirements. This removes the references to proficiency and so puts us back on the footing that we should be on. This, I guess, even before we do this, I'm excited that the team is pretty adamant about the opportunity to go a little bit deeper into graduation requirements after this first intermediary step is taken. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this policy IKF as written.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? I would just like to say that, I think overall the policy committee has done a lot of really good work this year. So I know this policy specifically was top of the list. So great job getting that out.
Definitely.
If you'd like to call, we're ready.
All right, all in favor? All right, seeing none opposed. All right, so we are now moving into the portion of our evening. We're going to entertain a motion to appoint an interim principal at Mabel I. Wilson School for the 2019-2020 school year. So I will take a motion and then we can have discussion. And that would be to appoint Sally Laughlin. I'll be more specific.
I'll move to appoint Sally Laughlin as the interim principal for MIW 2019-2020.
I'll second. All right, any discussion, questions? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we are going to move on now. We need to appoint 2 teaching positions for the 19-20 school year. I'm going to open those up. We have to say the name, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I am going to ask for a motion to appoint Julia Champagne for a .85 PE position at MIW and GMS. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All right, discussion. I just had a quick question. Is this in addition, or is there like a change out for the next year? We just needed to add more allied arts time?
So, no, this position does replace a person that we already have on staff. The person that we're replacing is a full-time person, but when we reviewed our schedule and some changes that we made, we did not need a full-time position replacing the person. And I know that sounds funny when we have more students at the school, but it was basically when we looked at our schedule, it was something that we were able to do with the schedule.
Okay. All right, all in favor? All right, and next I would ask that we entertain a motion to approve do we have to do them separately, or do we do them together?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna do,
We did them together. Okay.
oh, no, I'm gonna do it now.
They're separate.
Yeah, I always do them separately.
Yep.
So now I would just ask for a motion to appoint Heidi Magario for the 7th grade science teacher on Team Osprey. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor? All right, thank you. Okay, and now I need a motion to enter executive session. And that's to discuss the evaluation of the superintendent of schools pursuant to state statute MRSA 4056A.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? All right, great.
That's his lights are running late.
All right, welcome back. So now we are coming out of executive session, and I would need a motion to extend the superintendent's contract. So do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second?
Any discussion? I would just like to say thank you for another year, Jeff, and this is always a great vote because I think we're in a great place, and I think that you've got everyone's best interest at hand. So,
Thank you very much.
all right, all in favor? Okay, and so now we need to vote to authorize the chair to negotiate the 2019-2020 salary and benefits with the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion?
I don't have.
Now
any.
all in favor.
Any, but
All right, and now everyone's favorite motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andy.